Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel. Settle in, get comfortable, and prepare to be moved by a tale of unwavering loyalty and quiet endurance. If you enjoy our stories, please consider subscribing and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. Your support means the world to us. Now let's begin our story, The House Without a Voice, A Dog's Long Vigil. In a world bustling with human lives, secrets often lie hidden within the most mundane of structures' houses. These silent witnesses absorb laughter, tears, arguments, and dreams, holding them captive within their walls. But what happens when the voices cease and only one loyal heart remains to remember them? This is the story of Buster, a golden retriever whose life was once a symphony of joy, belly rubs, and the comforting rhythm of family life. He was a dog of boundless energy and an even greater capacity for love. His days marked by the sun-drenched routine of the Miller household. The Miller family, John, Sarah, and their two children, 8-year-old Lily and 12-year-old Tom, were Buster's world. Their house, a charming two-story with a sprawling backyard, was not just a dwelling. It was the vibrant heart of their existence, and Buster was its furry, four-legged guardian. Mornings began with the tantalizing aroma of Sarah's coffee and sizzling bacon, a scent that would send Buster into a delightful frenzy of tail wags and hopeful nudges. He'd follow John's sturdy footsteps from the bedroom to the kitchen, his soft nose bumping against John's hand, pleading for a pre-breakfast scratch behind the ears. The children's giggles were the music of his afternoons. Lily, with her wild curls and infectious laugh, would spend hours in the backyard, inventing elaborate games of hide-and-seek among the rosebush, Buster always her willing accomplice. He'd hide with comical inefficiency, his large frame easily spotted, only to burst out with a playful bark that would send Lily shrieking with delight. Tom, more reserved but equally affectionate, would share his quiet moments with Buster, reading comic books on the living room rug, his hand absently stroking Buster's soft fur. These were the moments Buster lived for, the gentle weight of Tom's hand, the rustle of turning pages, the shared silence that spoke volumes of their bond. The house itself seemed to hum with their presence. The scent of Sarah's lavender laundry detergent mingled with John's pipe tobacco, creating a unique aroma that was distinctly home. The walls echoed with the clatter of dinner plates, the lively chatter around the dining table, and the occasional squabble between the children, always quickly resolved by a parental word or Buster, a timely intervention with a paw on a knee. Every evening, as dusk painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Buster would settle at John's feet, his head resting on his paws, listening to the gentle murmur of adult conversation or the distant sounds of the television. He was not just a pet. He was an integral thread in the rich tapestry of the Miller family's life, a silent observer of their joys and sorrows, a constant presence in their ever-unfolding story. The Miller family had built a life filled with comfort, security, and above all, love. And Buster, with his golden fur and even more golden heart, was at the very core of it all, believing that this warmth, this laughter, this love would last forever. The day it all began, or rather, the day it all ended, started like any other Tuesday. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air and highlighting the vibrant colors of Lily, a latest crayon drawing tacked to the refrigerator. Buster, after a satisfying breakfast of kibble mixed with a spoonful of wet food, his absolute favorite treat, was enjoying his usual post-meal nap by the back door, intermittently twitching his tail as pleasant dreams chased imaginary squirrels. John left for work with his usual hurried kiss to Sarah and a pat on Buster's head, promising, "Be a good boy, B." Lily and Tom, backpacks slung over their shoulders, bid their farewells with excited chatter about school projects and playground adventures. Lily squeezed Buster's neck in a tight hug, her small hands ruffling his fur, while Tom gave him a more reserved but equally affectionate scratch behind the ears. "See you later, B," Tom mumbled, already halfway out the door. Sarah, after waiting them off, spent a quiet hour tending to her garden, Buster trotting faithfully beside her, occasionally helping by digging up a loose patch of soil or chasing a particularly bold butterfly. The afternoon brought the familiar sound of the school bus groaning to a halt down the street, and soon, Lily and Tom burst through the front door, their energy refilling the house like a sudden gust of wind. The rest of the day unfolded in a comforting ballet of domesticity. Homework at the kitchen table, the scent of baking cookies wafting from the oven, and later, the joyous chaos of a family dinner. Buster, ever the opportunist, would position himself strategically under the table, hoping for a stray crumb or a surreptitious handout from the children. John arrived home, tired but smiling, his presence a sturdy anchor in the family's day. After dinner, as was their nightly ritual, the family gathered in the living room. John read aloud from an adventure book, his deep voice filling the room, while Lily and Tom snuggled on the sofa, sometimes with Buster wedged between them, vying for attention. Sarah knitted quietly in her armchair, the rhythmic click of her needles a soothing counterpoint to John's storytelling. Buster, stretched out on the rug, his head resting on John's foot, felt the warmth of their collective presence, the easy rhythm of their breathing, the unspoken language of their love. He was utterly content. This was his world, predictable and perfect. He would yawn, a wide, contented stretch, and then drift off to sleep, confident in the knowledge that tomorrow would bring more of the same. More sun, more food, more playtime, more love. The idea that this perfect tapestry could unravel, that the vibrant colors of his life could fade into a desolate gray, was beyond his comprehension. To Buster, the Millers were an immutable force, as constant as the rising sun, as essential as the air he breathed. The thought of a life without their voices, without their touch, was simply an impossibility. He slept soundly that night, dreaming of chasing squirrels and the gentle strokes of Lily's hand, unaware that the world he knew, the world he loved, was about to shift, irrevocably leaving him adrift in a silence he could never have imagined. The morning sun, usually a herald of joy, felt different. Buster awoke with a sense of unease he couldn't quite place. The house was too quiet. The usual morning symphony of clattering pots, hurried footsteps, and children's laughter was conspicuously absent. He stretched a long, deliberate movement and then trotted to the kitchen, tail wagging with hopeful anticipation. But the kitchen was empty. No sizzling bacon, no aroma of coffee. The breakfast bowls, usually waiting for their morning fill, were still in the cupboard. He let out a soft whine, nudging the cupboard door with his nose, but it remained stubbornly closed. Confused, Buster padded through the silent house. He checked John and Sarah's bedroom. The bed was neatly made, but empty. Their clothes were gone from the closet. He sniffed at John's side of the bed, picking up a faint, lingering scent of his cologne, a scent that usually meant John was just around the corner. But today, it felt like an echo. He moved to Lily and Tom's rooms. Toys were scattered on the floor, books piled on knitstands, but the beds were undisturbed. No signs of a hasty departure, no torn clothes, no broken toys. It was as if they had simply vanished. A shiver, not of cold, but of something deeper, ran through Buster. He nudged Lily's favorite teddy bear, hoping to rouse her, but the bear remained limp, its button eyes staring blankly. He barked once, a short, questioning sound that echoed eerily in the sudden vastness of the house. No reply. He barked again, louder, a rising note of anxiety creeping into his voice. Still nothing. The silence was absolute, heavy, pressing in on him. He went to the front door, scratching lightly, then more insistently at the wood. He could usually hear John's keys jingle, or Sarah's gentle voice telling him to calm down. But today, only the faint rustle of leaves outside answered his plea. He sat by the door, head tilted, ears perked, listening intently. He waited and waited. Hours bled into each other. The sun climbed higher, then began its slow descent. His stomach rumbled, a deep, hollow protest. He hadn't eaten since yesterday evening. Thirsty, he went to his water bowl, only to find it dry. A new wave of confusion washed over him. This had never happened before. Someone always filled his bowl, always made sure he ate. He went back to the front door, nudging it with his nose, then pawing at it with increasing urgency. He tried the back door, then the sliding glass door to the patio. All were locked, unyielding. He let out a long, mournful howl, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of his growing despair. The house, usually so alive with the cacophony of family life, was now a tomb of silence, broken only by his own cries. He didn't understand. Where had they gone? Why had they left without him? His golden heart, usually so full of joy, now ached with a profound, bewildering emptiness. He paced the house, a restless shadow, moving from room to room, sniffing at every familiar object, searching for a clue, a sign, anything that could explain this sudden, terrifying void. But there was nothing. Only the deepening silence and the chilling realization that he was utterly, completely alone. The house, which had always spoken to him in 1,000 subtle ways, was now mute. And Buster, the loyal guardian, was left to begin his long vigil, his ears straining for a voice that would not come. As twilight deepened, casting long, eerie shadows across the living room, Buster felt the true weight of his solitude descend upon him. The familiar comforts of the house had transformed into stark reminders of absence. The sofa, usually a warm haven of family cuddles, now felt cold and vast. The toys scattered on the floor, once props in lively games, lay abandoned and lifeless. His stomach rumbled again, a more insistent demand this time, but the hunger was secondary to the gnawing emptiness in his heart. He tried to sleep, curling up on the rug where he usually lay at John's feet, but every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, sounded amplified, sinister. He would lift his head, ears swiveling, convinced he heard a familiar voice, a car pulling into the driveway. But each time, it was just the wind, or the settling of the old house. The silence stretched, vast and suffocating. He missed the gentle snores of John, the soft murmurs of Sarah, the restless movements of the children in their beds. He missed the comforting rhythm of their breathing, the unspoken assurance that he was not alone. The night was a canvas of unfamiliar sounds and heightened senses. The distant howl of a coyote sent a shiver down his spine, a sound he had heard before, but never when he was truly alone, truly vulnerable. He pressed himself against the front door, the cool wood offering a meager comfort, as if by being close to the entry point, he could somehow hasten their return. He remembered the last time he had felt such a profound sense of loss. It was when he was a young pup, separated from his mother and littermaids. But then, the Millers had come, a beacon of warmth and security, pulling him into their loving fold. This time, there was no one. Just the house, vast and echoing, and the creeping chill of a night spent in bewildered loneliness. He whimpered softly, a small, plaintive sound that dissolved into the silence. He didn't understand why they had gone. Had he done something wrong? Had he been a bad dog? He replayed memories in his mind. Lily's delighted squeals as he chased her, Tom's quiet pats, John's firm but loving commands, Sarah's gentle hands stroking his fur. He had always been a good boy, hadn't he? He had protected them, loved them unconditionally. Why would they leave him? The question swirled in his canine mind, unanswerable, creating a torment far worse than the hunger or the cold. He spent most of the night by the front door, his nose pressed against the crack at the bottom, inhaling the faint, lingering scent of their shoes, their coats, anything that spoke of their recent presence. He listened for the familiar rumble of John's car, the crunch of tires on the driveway. He watched the street through the sidelight, hoping to see their car turn the corner, its headlights cutting through the darkness. But the street remained empty, bathed only in the pale glow of the moon and the distant streetlights. As dawn approached, painting the sky in soft hues of gray and rose, Buster felt an exhaustion deep in his bones, an emotional weariness that outweighed his physical fatigue. He had not slept. The first lonely night had passed, a stark testament to his new reality. The house, once a fortress of love, had become a cage of sorrow. And Buster, its sole occupant, was left to face a new day, his vigil having truly begun, marked by the heavy silence that now filled every corner of his once vibrant home. The morning brought no relief, only a sharper pang of hunger. Buster knew he had to find food. His instincts, usually dulled by the easy abundance of the Miller household, were now screaming for survival. He went straight to the kitchen, sniffing around the empty food bowls, then turning his attention to the pantry. He knew where the big bags of kibble were kept. He pawed at the pantry door, whining, then barking with renewed vigor, hoping to summon the magic hands that usually produced his meals. But the pantry door remained sealed, a cruel barrier between him and sustenance. He tried nudging it, scratching at it, but it was beyond his strength to open. Frustrated, he turned his attention to the countertops. He could smell faint traces of human food, yesterday's dinner, perhaps, or breakfast crumbs. He jumped, paws scrabbling against the smooth surface, but it was too high. He knocked over a vase, which shuddered on the floor, the sound echoing loudly in the silent house. He paid no mind to the broken pieces, his focus solely on the elusive scent of food. Desperate, he moved to the refrigerator, a behemoth of cool air and hidden treasures. He sniffed at the bottom, catching faint whiffs of milk and cheese, things he occasionally got as treats. He pawed at the handle, but it too was an impenetrable fortress. His frustration mounted, turning into a low growl of exasperation. This was all so new, so terrifying. He had always been fed, always had fresh water. This sudden responsibility for his own survival was a heavy burden for a dog whose biggest worry had been whether John would throw the ball one more time. He wandered into the dining room, then the living room, sniffing at every surface, every piece of furniture. His keen nose picked up the faintest scent of spilled crumbs under the sofa cushions or a dropped piece of popcorn from a movie night. He pushed his nose deep into the cracks, managing to retrieve a few stale, forgotten bits. They were meager, unsatisfying, but a temporary reprieve from the gnawing hunger. Then he remembered the trash can. John often left it open, and sometimes, if Buster was quick enough, he could snatch a discarded piece of crust or a leftover. He hurried back to the kitchen, his tail giving a tentative wag of hope. The trash can was there, a tall, stainless steel cylinder. He nudged the pedal with his nose, but it was too heavy. He tried to tip it over, but it was too sturdy. He circled it, barking in frustration, his hopes dashed once again. He was tired, hungry, and utterly defeated. The house, which had once provided everything, now offered nothing but locked doors and unreachable heights. His thirst was becoming unbearable. He knew where his water bowl was, but it was empty. He tried the kitchen sink, jumping up and pawing at the faucet, but no water came out. He then remembered the toilet. He had seen John and Sarah use it, and sometimes, in a moment of playful curiosity, he had even tried to drink from it, only to be shooed away. Now, with no other option, he tentatively approached. The cool, clean water in the bowl was a godsend. He lapped at it eagerly, relief washing over him with each swallow. It wasn't ideal, but it was water. As the day wore on, Buster's physical discomfort began to overshadow his emotional pain. Survival was becoming his primary instinct. He knew he couldn't stay in the kitchen forever, hoping for a miracle. He had to explore, to learn. The house, once his safe haven, was now a puzzle he had to solve, a test of his resilience. He was just a dog, but deep within him, The ancient instinct to survive was stirring, pushing him forward, even in the face of such profound abandonment. Days bled into a week, then two. The initial shock and bewilderment began to give way to a grim understanding for Buster. The Millers were not coming back. Not today, not tomorrow. The house, once alive with their presence, was slowly but surely dying around him. The air grew stale, carrying the faint, unsettling scent of disuse. Dust settled everywhere, a fine gray blanket covering furniture and floors, obscuring the vibrant life that had once pulsed within these walls. Buster's once sleek, golden fur began to lose its luster. His ribs, once hidden beneath a healthy layer of flesh, became more prominent. He was thinner, his movements less playful, more deliberate, conserving energy. He had found a small bag of forgotten dog treats in a low cupboard in the laundry room. A lucky discovery that had sustained him for a few more days, but that too was now empty. His main source of food became whatever meager crumbs he could scavenge from under furniture, or the occasional insect he managed to catch. The toilet water remained his only consistent source of hydration. The outside world, once a distant backdrop to his indoor life, began to assert its presence. The garden, once meticulously tended by Sarah, was growing wild, weeds creeping over the patio and obscuring the rose bushes. The lawn grew long and shaggy, a stark contrast to John's perfectly mown stripes. The vibrant colors of summer were beginning to fade, replaced by the muted tones of early autumn. The air grew cooler and the nights became noticeably colder. The heating, which usually hummed to life as soon as the temperature dropped, remained silent. Buster would curl up tighter on the living room rug, seeking the last vestiges of warmth from the sun-drenched spots during the day, or burying himself under an old blanket he had pulled from the sofa at night. His sleep was fitful, punctuated by shivers and the constant alertness of a creature on its own. The house, which had always felt like a warm embrace, now felt vast and cavernous, its empty rooms echoing with the ghosts of laughter and conversation. The silence was no longer just the absence of sound. It was a presence in itself, heavy and suffocating. Buster would often find himself gazing out the front window, his nose pressed against the cool glass, watching the cars pass by, each one a fleeting hope. He'd watch other dogs being walked by their owners, their happy barks a painful reminder of his own lost joy. Sometimes people would slow down, looking at the overgrown yard, a frown on their faces. But no one ever stopped. No one ever came to the door. He tried barking, a desperate plea for attention, but his barks were weak, his voice hoarse from disuse, and they were swallowed by the silence of the house. He was trapped, a loyal sentinel in a forgotten fortress. His vigil was no longer just a waiting. It was a testament to his unbreakable spirit, a silent promise to a family that may never return. The house was growing cold, both literally and metaphorically, and Buster was its sole, enduring warmth, a flickering flame against the encroaching desolation. He had to find a way to survive, not just for himself, but for them. For the Millers, wherever they were. Winter arrived with a vengeance, blanketing the Miller house in a thick layer of pristine white snow. The once colorful world outside transformed into a stark, monochrome landscape. For Buster, the beauty of the snow was overshadowed by the brutal cold. The house, with no heating, became an icebox. His breath plumed in the frigid air, and his paws grew numb on the cold floorboards. He knew he couldn't survive the winter simply by curling up on the living room rug. His survival instincts, honed by months of solitude, kicked into overdrive. He began to explore the house with a new purpose, seeking out the warmest nooks and crannies. He discovered the small, enclosed space under the stairs, where the air was slightly less biting. He dragged an old blanket he had found in the laundry room into this makeshift den, creating a small, insulated nest. This became his sanctuary during the harshest nights. food became an even greater challenge. The few insects were gone, driven away by the cold. His scavenging became more desperate. He managed to pry open a kitchen drawer with his teeth, only to find it filled with cutlery, not food. He gnawed on an old leather shoe he found in the closet, gaining little sustenance but perhaps some fiber. His body was a testament to his struggle, gaunt, his fur dull and matted, but his spirit, though weary, refused to break. The frozen pipes meant no more toilet water. This was a critical blow. Buster's desperation escalated. He tried to lick ice from the windowsills, but it was too little, too slow. He remembered the leaking bucket in the spare bathroom, but during the sub-zero temperatures, the drips had frozen solid. He was truly alone, facing the elements without aid. One morning, a blizzard raged outside, rattling the windows and howling like a banshee. Buster, huddled in his den under the stairs, listened to the storm with a profound sense of isolation. He thought of Lily and Tom playing in the snow, building snowmen, their laughter echoing through the winter air. He remembered John shoveling the driveway, and Sarah bringing him warm broth after a long walk in the cold. These memories, once comforting, now felt like cruel taunts, highlighting the stark reality of his present. He pressed his nose against the crack under the front door, feeling the icy draft, and watched as the snow piled higher against the glass. He felt the intense cold seep into his bones, and for the first time, a flicker of true despair threatened to extinguish his loyal flame. Was this how it would end? Alone, cold, and hungry, in the house he had sworn to protect. Yet, even in the depths of his despair, a stubborn spark of hope persisted. He had to believe they would return. He had to keep waiting. His vigil was not just a waiting game, it was a promise. He had made a silent vow to his family, and he would not break it. He would endure. He would survive for them. He closed his eyes, drawing on every ounce of his remaining strength, and curled tighter into his makeshift nest. The sounds of the blizzard raging outside, a stark counterpoint to the profound silence within his heart. Just when Buster thought the cold might finally claim him, a small miracle occurred. One particularly frigid afternoon, driven by an insatiable thirst, he found himself in the backyard. The snow lay deep, making movement difficult, but he was compelled by an instinct he couldn't ignore. He was sniffing around the perimeter of the house, desperate, when he caught a faint, metallic scent. Following his nose, he dug through a drift near the back porch, unearthing a forgotten metal bucket. To his utter astonishment and immense relief, the bucket contained a layer of melted ice and snow, forming a small pool of frigid but drinkable water. It was enough to quench his burning thirst, a lifeline in the desolate winter landscape. He drank deeply, the cold liquid a shock to his system, but a welcome one. This discovery, though small, reignited a flicker of hope within Buster. It was a reminder that even in the bleakest of times, sustenance could be found, life could persist. It spurred him to continue his search for food with renewed vigor. He began to explore the backyard more thoroughly, despite the snow. He sniffed at the base of the old oak tree, then at the shed where John kept his gardening tools. Nothing. But then, as he was about to give up and retreat to his den, he caught another scent, faint but undeniably present. It was coming from the compost pile, a mound of organic matter that Sarah had always maintained near the back fence. It was frozen solid on the surface, but Buster, driven by hunger, began to dig. He scratched and pawed at the icy crust, his paws growing raw and cold, until he broke through to the softer, less frozen interior. There, amidst the decaying leaves and vegetable scraps, he found a few hardened pieces of bread, an old, half-eaten apple core, and some frozen potato peels. They were far from a feast, but they were food. He ate them with a hunger that defied their unappetizing nature, each bite a small victory against starvation. These small triumphs, the water in the bucket and the meager pickings from the compost, became his new routine. He would venture out each day, enduring the bitter cold to check his water source and dig for food. He was learning to survive, adapting to a world that had abandoned him. His body was still gone, his movements still slow, but there was a new resilience in his eyes, a stubborn refusal to succumb. The bitter winds of winter still howled, and the snow continued to fall, but Buster was no longer completely helpless. He was a survivor, guided by instinct and an unwavering will to live. His loyalty to the Millers remained his guiding star, a silent promise that he would be here when they returned, no matter how long it took. He would brave the cold, the hunger, and the loneliness, for the hope, however faint, that one day, the familiar sounds of laughter and love would once again fill the house without a voice. The glimmer of hope was a fragile thing, but it was enough to keep him going, one arduous day at a time, through the harsh heart of winter. As winter slowly began to recede, giving way to the tentative thaw of early spring, Buster found himself observing the outside world with a new intensity. His long vigil had refined his senses, sharpening his perception of everything beyond the confines of the silent house. The street, once just a blur of activity, now offered a tapestry of fleeting moments, each a whisper from the world he was no longer a part of. He watched children on their bicycles, their joyful shouts piercing the quiet. He saw neighbors walking their dogs, the familiar sight a painful reminder of his own lost walks with John. He noted the changing cars, the subtle shifts in fashion, the slow progression of time marching on without him. Sometimes a car would slow down, the occupants craning their necks to look at the increasingly overgrown yard and the neglected appearance of the Miller house. He would perk his ears, his heart thumping with a mix of fear and hope. Would this be the one? Would someone finally stop, finally see him? But they never did. They would shake their heads, perhaps mutter something about abandoned property, and then drive away, leaving Buster to his solitary vigil. One afternoon, a postal worker, a new face on the route, approached the mailbox, his movements brisk and efficient. Buster watched him intently, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The man didn't linger, merely dropped the mail and continued on his way, oblivious to the loyal guardian watching from behind the dusty window. Buster often wondered about these people, these fleeting figures in his peripheral vision. Did they wonder about the house? Did they ever suspect a life, a dog, existed within its silent walls? He imagined their lives, full of sounds and smells and touches he no longer experienced. It was a strange duality, being so close to human activity, yet so utterly cut off from it. The changing seasons brought new smells to the air, the fresh scent of spring rain, the blooming flowers in neighboring gardens, the rich earth turned by early planters. These were invigorating, a welcome change from the stale, dusty air of the house, but they also highlighted his confinement. He longed to run in the open fields, to chase rabbits in the woods, to feel the soft earth beneath his paws without the barrier of glass and locked doors. The conflict within him was a quiet battle. His instincts urged him to explore, to seek out new territories, new sources of food and companionship. The world outside beckoned with its myriad possibilities. But his loyalty, a powerful, unshakable force, tethered him to the house. This was his post, his duty. He had made a silent promise to the Millers, and he would not abandon it. He was their guardian, their sentinel. He would remain, even if it meant sacrificing his own freedom, his own comfort, his own future. He was a dog, and a dog's loyalty was absolute. He would continue to watch the world go by, a silent, unwavering presence in the house without a voice, his heart holding on to the faint, persistent hope that one day, the whispers from the outside world would turn into the familiar voices of home. One crisp spring morning, as Buster sat at his usual post by the living room window, a new, lively presence disrupted the quiet monotony of his vigil. A plump, audacious squirrel, its tail twitching like a question mark, darted across the overgrown lawn and began to scale the sturdy trunk of the old oak tree that stood proudly in the front yard. This was not just any squirrel, this was a challenge. Buster's instincts, usually reserved for survival, ignited with a familiar, primal spark of the chase. He watched the squirrel with intense focus, a low growl rumbling deep in his chest. His body tensed, ready to spring, even though the thick glass of the window separated him from his quarry. The squirrel, seemingly aware of its canine audience, paused on a low branch, chattering impudently, its beady eyes flicking towards the window. Buster barked, a series of sharp, frustrated barks that echoed through the silent house. He pawed at the glass, his claws scraping against the pane, a desperate attempt to breach the invisible barrier. He remembered countless afternoons spent chasing squirrels with Lily and Tom, their laughter mingling with his excited barks as the nimble creatures always managed to elude him, scrambling up trees to safety. Those were good times, full of playful frustration and the joy of shared activity. This squirrel, however, was a solo adversary, a taunting reminder of his captivity. Day after day, the squirrel became a regular fixture in the front yard. It seemed to delight in Buster's torment, often performing elaborate acrobatics on the branches closest to the window, or bearing nuts with exaggerated movements right in Buster's line of sight. Buster, for his part, found a strange kind of comfort in this daily ritual. It was a distraction, a brief return to a semblance of his old life, even if it was a frustrated, one-sided game. It stirred a dormant energy within him, a reminder of the vibrant, playful dog he once was. He would spend hours at the window, occasionally letting out a mournful whine or a frustrated bark, but mostly just watching, his eyes following the squirrel's every move. He learned its patterns, its favorite branches, its preferred burying spots. It became a small, silent drama playing out in the front yard, with Buster as the captive audience. The squirrel, in its own way, had become a companion, a link to the outside world, a symbol of life continuing, even thriving, despite the abandonment of the house. It was a fleeting, frustrating connection, but it was a connection nonetheless. As the spring days lengthened and the trees began to bud, Buster found his vigil slightly less lonely thanks to his furry, chattering nemesis. The squirrel may have been a tormentor, but it was also a spark of life, a persistent challenge that kept Buster's mind active, his instincts sharp, and his spirit from completely succumbing to the overwhelming silence. He continued his silent promise, his loyalty unwavering, but now, with a feisty squirrel to occupy his days, the house without a voice felt a little less empty, and his long vigil a little less desolate. The subtle hum of an approaching engine, different from the usual traffic, drew Buster's attention away from his squirrel watching. It was a large, official-looking van, painted white with blue lettering, pulling slowly up the street. His hackles rose instinctively. This felt different. The van stopped directly in front of the Miller house, and two figures emerged, dressed in uniforms, animal control. A wave of primal fear surged through Buster. He had heard the stories from other dogs at the park, the capture, the shelter, the unknown fate. He backed away from the window, retreating into the shadows of the living room, his body tense and low to the ground. He watched through a gap in the curtains as the two officers approached the front door. They knocked, firm and loud, the sound echoing ominously through the silent house. Buster whimpered, pressing himself against the wall, trying to make himself invisible. He held his breath, his heart pounding against his ribs. The officers waited, then knocked again, their voices murmuring, too low for Buster to understand. He could smell them now, the unfamiliar human scents, tinged with a clinical, metallic odor that made his fur bristle. He knew he couldn't let them find him. This house was his responsibility, his last link to his family. If they took him, everything would be lost. He heard the jingle of keys, then the ominous sound of a lockpick. They were trying to get in, Panic threatened to overwhelm him. He darted towards the back of the house, seeking refuge. He scrambled under the bed in the master bedroom, pushing himself as far back as possible, hoping the darkness would conceal him. He could hear their footsteps now, heavy and deliberate, moving through the silent house. Each creak of the floorboards was a hammer blow to his anxious heart. He heard them enter the living room, their voices now clearer, discussing the state of the abandoned house. "Looks like it's been empty for a while," one said. "No signs of life, but we got a call about a dog sighting." Buster froze, barely daring to breathe. They knew he was here. He heard them move towards the kitchen, then the dining room. They were searching. He clenched his jaw, his muscles coiled, ready to run if they found him. He could hear them opening doors, peering into closets. "Nothing in here," one reported. "Just dust." They were getting closer. He heard them enter the hallway, then the spare bedroom. His heart raced. He was trapped. Then a miracle. A loud, insistent buzzing sound filled the air. "Dispatch," one officer said, pulling out a walkie-talkie. "Yeah, we're at the Miller residence. No sign of a dog. House is empty, looks abandoned. We've got another call coming in, a priority." A brief pause. "Right, we're heading out." Buster listened, his ears twitching, barely daring to believe it. Their footsteps retreated, heading back towards the front door. He heard the click of the lock, the closing of the door, and then the familiar sound of the van's engine starting up and driving away. He waited, motionless, for a long time, until the last whisper of the engine faded into the distance. Slowly, cautiously, he crawled out from under the bed, shaking uncontrollably. He had survived. He had evaded capture. But the brush with danger had left him shaken, a stark reminder of the precariousness of his existence. He was truly alone, and the outside world, once a source of fleeting hope, now felt like a constant threat. His vigil was not just about waiting. It was about protecting, about guarding the last remaining vestiges of his family's home, even from those who might try to help him. Months turned into a year, then two. The Miller house, once a beacon of domestic warmth, had succumbed almost entirely to the relentless march of time and nature. The vibrant paint on its exterior was peeling, curling away from the wood like dry skin. The once pristine white trim was streaked with grime and moss. Shingles were missing from the roof, leaving dark, gaping holes through which rain and snow now freely entered. Inside, the decay was even more profound. The leak in the attic had worsened, staining the ceiling of the spare bathroom with an ugly brown watermark and creating a persistent drip that now pooled on the floor, fostering a patch of black mold. Water damage had spread to the adjacent rooms, causing wallpaper to bubble and peel, revealing the bare plaster beneath. The floorboards, once sturdy, now sagged in places, groaning under Buster's lighter weight. The air was thick with the smell of damp, mildew, and stale dust, a stark contrast to the fresh, clean scents of the Miller's time. Buster, though leaner and more weathered, continued his unwavering vigil. His fur, once a glorious golden, was now dull and matted in places, stubbornly refusing to shed its winter coat entirely. His muzzle was dusted with gray, and his once boundless energy was replaced by a more deliberate, economical pace. He was an old dog now, his movements stiff, his eyes often clouded with the weariness of time, but his gaze remained fixed on the front window, a silent testament to his enduring loyalty. He had adapted to the decaying house, learning its new rhythms, its new dangers. He knew which floorboards to avoid, which spots were driest. He had found new sources of food, resourceful rats and mice, drawn by the decay, sometimes became his prey, a grim but necessary part of his survival. He was a hunter now, a survivor, a far cry from the pampered pet he once was. Yet, despite the harsh realities of his existence, his memories of the Millers remained as vivid as ever. He would often lie on the living room rug, his head on his paws, watching the dust motes dance in the shafts of sunlight that pierced through the grimy windows. In those moments, he could almost hear Lily's laughter, almost feel Tom's gentle hand, almost smell Sarah's baking. He would close his eyes and drift back to a time when the house was full of life, full of love, full of voices. These mental journeys were his only escape, his only comfort in the desolate silence. The changing seasons continued their cycle outside, oblivious to the quiet tragedy unfolding within. Spring brought new growth, but it was wild and untamed, reclaiming the garden. Summer brought oppressive heat, making the stale air of the house even more suffocating. Autumn stripped the trees bare once more, their skeletal branches scratching against the windows like ghostly fingers. And winter, always the most brutal, tested his resilience anew each year. The house was no longer just a house. It was a monument to absence, a silent sentinel of a vanished past. And Buster, its loyal guardian, was its living, breathing heart, a testament to a love that time and decay could not diminish. His vigil continued, a silent promise whispered to the fading echoes of a home that had lost its voice. One afternoon, as the late autumn sun cast long, mournful shadows across the living room, Buster found himself pausing before the large, grimy mirror that hung in the entryway. It was an old piece, framed in dark wood, and usually he paid it no mind. But today, something compelled him to stop. He gazed at his reflection, a gaunt, gray-muzzled dog staring back at him. It was a stark contrast to the vibrant, golden pup he remembered. His fur was matted in places, his eyes, though still soulful, held a deep weariness, and the lines of his body were etched with the hardships of years spent in solitude. He barely recognized the creature staring back. This was not the Buster who had chased balls with boundless energy, not the Buster who had snuggled on the sofa with children. This was a survivor, a shadow of his former self, a testament to a long, hard vigil. He nudged the mirror with his nose, whimpering softly. Was this truly him? Had so much time passed? The reflection offered no answers, only the silent, unwavering gaze of his older, wiser self. He turned away, a profound sadness settling over him. The passage of time was relentless, leaving its indelible marks on both the house and its loyal occupant. The house itself was a mirror, reflecting its own decay. The paint was peeling in larger swaths, the garden was a wild tangle of weeds and thorns, and the windows, once transparent portals to the world, were now so grimy they barely let in light. He moved to his usual spot by the front window, his gaze fixed on the street. He watched as a young family walked by, a golden retriever puppy bounding playfully at their heels, its fur bright and shiny, its eyes full of innocent joy. Buster watched them, a pang of longing in his heart. He remembered that feeling, that boundless energy, that unquestioning happiness. He remembered the Millers, young and full of life, just like that family. He remembered their touch, their scent, their laughter. They were so real in his memory, almost tangible. Yet they were gone. His thoughts drifted to the future, a concept that was both terrifying and vague. Would he ever feel a human touch again? Would he ever hear a kind voice directed at him, a loving word? Or was he destined to spend his remaining days in this silent, decaying house, his only companions the ghosts of memories and the relentless march of time? He let out a soft sigh, a sound heavy with the weight of years and unfulfilled longing. His body ached, his joints stiff, but his spirit, though weary, refused to break. He was a dog of unwavering loyalty, and that loyalty was his anchor, his reason for enduring. He would continue his vigil, even if his reflection showed a stranger, even if the house around him crumbled. He would wait for the Millers, for the return of the voices, for the warmth of home until his last breath. The reflection in the glass was a somber reminder of what he had lost, but it was also a testament to what he had become. A silent, enduring guardian, a living monument to love and loyalty, standing watch on the house without a voice. As the years accumulated, the Miller house became less a home and more a living museum of their absence. Every object, every room, held a whisper of the past, a phantom echo of the lives once lived within its walls. For Buster, these whispers were his constant companions, his only connection to the family he refused to forget. He would often lie in Lily's room, his head resting on her dusty, untouched dollhouse. He'd close his eyes and imagine her tiny hands carefully arranging the miniature furniture, her soft voice narrating elaborate stories for her dolls. He could almost hear her humming a sweet, off-key melody that always brought a smile to his face. In Tom's room, he'd sniff at the worn baseball glove left on the desk, recalling the countless games of catch in the backyard, Tom's excited shouts, and the satisfying thud of the ball against the leather. He remembered how Tom would gently scold him for trying to catch the ball himself, then reward him with a playful tussle. The scent of old leather and dust brought a bittersweet pang to his heart. The master bedroom, once a sanctuary of warmth and comfort, now felt cold and empty. But Buster would still curl up on John's side of the bed, burying his nose in the pillow, trying to catch the faintest scent of his beloved owner. He remembered John's strong, reassuring hand on his head, his deep voice murmuring words of affection. He remembered Sarah's soft touch, her soothing presence. These memories were both a comfort and a torment, a constant reminder of what he had lost. The living room, once the heart of family gatherings, was now a silent tableau. The sofa, with its permanently dented cushions, seemed to invite the Millers to return to their usual spots. The fireplace, once roaring with warmth, was cold and empty, its mantelpiece still adorned with a few dusty, leaning family photos. Buster would sit before it, gazing at the faded images, his eyes fixed on the smiling faces of his family. He often found himself revisiting the house's various stations, places where specific memories were strongest. The kitchen, where food was prepared and shared. The back door, where he was let out to play. The front window, his eternal watch post. Each place held its own set of echoes, its own silent stories. He was a living archive, a keeper of memories, holding onto the past with a tenacity that defied logic. The concept of abandonment, of being simply forgotten, was alien to him. In his dog's heart, love was an eternal flame, and loyalty an unbreakable bond. The Millers had been his world, and he would remain their steadfast guardian, even if they never returned. The whispers of the past were his lifeline, his reason for continuing his long vigil. They were the only voices left in the house, and he listened to them, day in and day out, a loyal sentinel in a world that had forgotten the sound of laughter. More years passed, each one adding another layer of dust to the furniture, another crack to the plaster, and another gray hair to Buster's muzzle. He was an old dog now, his body a testament to the passage of time and the harshness of his solitary existence. His movements were slow and deliberate, his joints aching with every step. His once keen eyesight was dim, and his hearing, though still sharp for familiar sounds, was less reliable for the distant murmurs of the outside world. He spent most of his days resting, conserving his dwindling energy, his vigil now a less active, more meditative state. He would lie by the front window, his head resting on his paws, his eyes half closed, but his internal watch remained ever vigilant. He was a creature of habit, and his loyalty had become an intrinsic part of his very being. The house itself had settled into a state of advanced decay. The roof had several large holes, allowing rain and snow to pour in, creating internal streams and ponds during storms. The wooden floors, perpetually damp, began to rot in places, creating treacherous soft spots. The windows, once merely grimy, were now cracked or broken, allowing the elements free rein. The once carefully tended garden had entirely reclaimed the property, a dense, thorny wilderness that obscured the house from view. It was a forgotten place, a relic of a time long past, and Buster was its last living artifact. His survival had become a miracle in itself. He had learned to catch the rainwater in larger, more reliable puddles on the floor, and his hunting skills, honed by necessity, were surprisingly effective against the rodents and occasional birds that ventured into the decaying structure. He had found a large, torn blanket in the linen closet, which he had dragged into his den under the stairs, creating a warmer, more comfortable nest for his aging body. But the physical toll was undeniable. He was thin, his fur sparse in places, and his once strong bark was now a raspy whisper. He would often whimper in his sleep, his dreams filled with the phantom touches and voices of his beloved millers. He missed them with an ache that transcended mere hunger or cold. He missed their presence, their warmth, the sheer joy of being a part of their family. He was tired, so very tired, but his will to endure remained unbroken. His promise to them, a silent vow whispered years ago in his dog's heart, was still his driving force. He was Buster, and he would wait. He had seen seasons come and go, watched the world outside change and evolve, all from his silent post. He was a loyal sentinel, a living monument to an enduring love, forever bound to the house without a voice, carrying the weight of years and the unwavering flame of hope in his old golden heart. His vigil was a testament, a legend unfolding in the quiet solitude of an abandoned home. One late afternoon, as the setting sun cast long, dusty rays through a shattered window pane, Buster was startled awake by a scent he hadn't encountered in what felt like an eternity. It was faint, barely discernible beneath the pervasive odors of damp, decay, and his own aging body, but it was undeniably there. A human scent, but not just any human scent. It was familiar, not the distant, generic scent of passers-by or the clinical smell of the animal control officers. This was different. A tremor ran through his old body. Could it be, after all these years? He lifted his head, his ears perked, straining to pinpoint the source. The scent seemed to be coming from outside, from the overgrown front yard. It was a complex scent, a mixture of earth, pine, and something else. Something deeply ingrained in his memory, something that stirred a powerful, almost forgotten emotion within him: hope. He struggled to his feet, his old joints protesting with a soft groan. He moved slowly, deliberately, towards the front window, his eyes, though dim, fixed on the chaotic tangle of bushes and weeds that now obscured the street. He pushed his nose against a cracked pane, inhaling deeply. The scent was stronger now, mixed with the fresh tang of disturbed earth. Someone was out there in their yard. He watched, his heart thumping with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The thick foliage made it hard to see, but he could make out a faint movement, a disturbance in the undergrowth. A figure silhouetted against the waning light was moving slowly, cautiously through the overgrown garden. It was a human figure, but smaller than John, perhaps younger. Buster let out a soft whine, a sound he hadn't made in years, a sound of longing and uncertainty. He wanted to bark, to alert them to his presence, but his throat felt tight, his voice a mere croak. He watched as the figure knelt, examining the base of a long-dead rosebush. The movement was slow, deliberate, as if searching for something. Buster's mind raced, trying to connect the dots, to understand who this person was and why they were in his family's forgotten garden. Was it a trespasser, a vandal, or something else entirely? As the figure stood up, turning slightly, a glint of light caught something in their hand. It looked like a small silver locket, and then a sound. A soft, almost inaudible sigh, carried on the breeze, a sigh of profound sadness. It was a sound that resonated deep within Buster's loyal heart. He watched, utterly captivated, as the figure gently placed the locket into a small hole near the base of the rosebush, then carefully covered it with soil. It was a gesture of remembrance, a silent farewell. And then the figure slowly turned and began to walk away, back towards the street, back towards the world outside. Buster wanted to cry out, to stop them, to make them see him. But his voice failed him, and his old legs were too slow. He watched, helpless, as the familiar scent, the scent that had stirred such a powerful hope, began to fade, disappearing back into the encroaching shadows. The moment passed, leaving Buster once again alone, but not entirely. The familiar scent had awakened something within him, a renewed sense of purpose. The Millers might be gone, but their memory lingered, and he, Buster, was still here. Their loyal guardian, still keeping his long vigil, forever bound to the house without a voice. The encounter with the mysterious figure in the garden left Buster profoundly shaken, yet strangely invigorated. The familiar scent, though fleeting, had stirred old memories, pulling them to the forefront of his aging mind with a clarity he hadn't experienced in years. He spent the next few days in the garden, sniffing at the spot where the locket had been buried, trying to find a trace of that potent, nostalgic aroma. It was gone, washed away by the dew and the wind, but the memory lingered, a tangible presence in his heart. Who was that person? And why had they buried a locket in Lily's rosebush? He remembered Lily's absolute adoration for the small, white roses Sarah had planted for her. It was a place of joy, now a place of quiet remembrance. This brief, silent interaction had transformed Buster's vigil. It was no longer just a passive waiting. It was an active witnessing. He felt a renewed sense of responsibility, not just to wait, but to understand, to somehow piece together the fragments of the past that this stranger had brought to light. He began to explore the garden with a new purpose. The wild overgrowth, once merely an obstacle, now felt like a veil, hiding secrets. He pushed through the thorny bush, sniffing at old garden tools left to rust, at the base of trees, at the crumbling remains of a bird bath. Each item held a faint scent, a whisper of the Millers, a ghost of their touch. He found Lily's old plastic watering can, half buried in the weeds, its bright pink faded by years of sun and rain. He nudged it with his nose, remembering her small hands, her serious face as she tended to her tiny patch of flowers. He remembered Tom's discarded soccer ball, deflated and cracked, wedged under a pile of leaves near the back fence. He remembered John's sturdy gardening gloves, left on a bench, now brittle and torn. Each discovery was a poignant reminder, a piece of the puzzle that was his lost family. He was a witness to their past, the sole keeper of their memories, walking through the relics of their lives. He felt a profound connection to these objects, these silent witnesses, as if they too were waiting, holding their breath, for the Millers to return. As he lay in the garden one evening, watching the stars emerge in the vast, silent sky, Buster felt the weight of his years, but also the strength of his purpose. He was the last link, the living memory of a family that had simply vanished. He had survived the cold, the hunger, the loneliness, the threats from the outside world. He had seen the house crumble around him and the garden reclaim its wild nature. He was old, weary, and scarred, but his loyalty remained an unyielding flame. He would continue his vigil, not just for their return, but for their memory, for the story that only he could witness. He was Buster, the loyal guardian, the silent keeper of secrets, forever bound to the house without a voice, a living testament to a love that time and abandonment could never truly extinguish. His long vigil was not just a waiting. It was a profound act of remembrance, a silent promise to the family he would never forget. One unusually warm afternoon, as Buster dozed fitfully in his den under the stairs, a new sound pierced the usual silence of the house. It wasn't the distant rumble of traffic, nor the rustle of leaves, nor the creaks and groans of the decaying structure. It was closer, more deliberate, and utterly unfamiliar. The sound of a car door closing, followed by footsteps on the gravel driveway. Buster's old ears perked up, and his eyes, though clouded with age, widened with a mix of apprehension and a raw, untamed spark of hope. He struggled to his feet, his body protesting, and moved slowly towards the front window, his heart thumping with a rhythm he hadn't felt in years. Through the grimy glass, he saw a woman standing on the overgrown lawn, her back to him. She was young, perhaps in her late 20s, with bright, curious eyes and a gentle demeanor. She wasn't one of the animal control officers, nor the mysterious locket-bearing figure. This was a completely new presence. She was holding a clipboard and a camera, and she was taking pictures of the house, her expression a mix of awe and sadness. Buster watched her, his body trembling. He wanted to bark to announce his presence, but his voice was caught in his throat, a mere wheeze. He could smell her now, a clean, fresh scent, mingled with something else. Something vaguely familiar, something that tugged at a distant memory. He watched as she slowly walked around the perimeter of the house, her gaze sweeping over the crumbling porch, the broken windows, the wild garden. She seemed to be studying every detail, every sign of decay, every ghost of a past life. He followed her movements from window to window, a silent shadow in the fading light. He saw her pause by Lily's old rose bush, her fingers gently touching the thorny branches. She paused for a long moment, a thoughtful expression on her face, then continued her circuit. As she reached the back of the house, she noticed the slightly ajar back door. It must have been forced open by a storm or simply given way to years of neglect. She hesitated then, with a cautious curiosity, pushed it open further and stepped inside. Buster froze. His house, his sanctuary, now breached by an outsider. He backed away, retreating into the deeper shadows, his instincts screaming both fear and a strange, powerful pull towards this new, gentle presence. She moved slowly through the house, her footsteps light and hesitant. She spoke softly, her voice a gentle murmur, as if narrating her observations. "Oh my," she whispered, her voice filled with a profound sadness as she surveyed the decay. "What a beautiful home this must have been." She walked into the living room, her gaze falling upon the dusty family photos on the mantelpiece. She picked one up, gently wiping away the dust. "The Millers," she murmured, her voice filled with a melancholic recognition. Buster watched her, hidden in the shadows, his old heart aching with a mixture of fear and an almost unbearable hope. This woman knew his family. She spoke their name. Could this be it? Could this be the end of his long vigil? The beginning of something new? The house, for the first time in years, was not entirely silent. And in that new sound, a new hope began to flicker in Buster's old, weary heart. The woman, whose name was Eleanor, moved through the silent house with a quiet reverence, her voice a gentle counterpoint to the years of desolation. She was an architectural historian, documenting abandoned homes. But as she studied the Miller residence, she felt a deeper connection, a profound sense of history and loss. She paused in the living room, her eyes scanning the dusty space. "Such character," she murmured, her gaze falling upon the old, worn rug, and then she saw him. Hidden in the deep shadows beneath the sofa, a pair of dull, golden eyes peered out, filled with a mixture of terror and an ancient, unwavering loyalty. "Buster," Eleanor gasped softly, her hand flying to her mouth. "Oh, my dear," she whispered, her voice filled with an overwhelming compassion. She knelt slowly, carefully, keeping her distance, her eyes fixed on the old dog. "You've been here all this time, haven't you?" Buster whimpered, a low, guttural sound, torn between his instinct to flee and a desperate yearning for human contact. He hadn't heard a kind voice, felt a gentle presence in so many years. Eleanor spoke to him softly, her words a soothing balm in the vast silence. "It's okay, boy. I'm not here to hurt you. You're safe." She slowly extended a hand, palm up, offering it gently. Buster watched her, his body trembling, his mind a battlefield of conflicting emotions. He remembered John's hand, Sarah's gentle touch, Lily's playful pats. Could this be real? Could this warmth, this kindness, truly be meant for him? After a long, agonizing moment, he took a hesitant step forward, then another, slowly emerging from the shadows. His old legs were stiff, his movements slow, but he was driven by a need far greater than his fear. He sniffed at her outstretched hand, then tentatively licked her fingers. The touch was soft, warm, real. Eleanor's eyes welled up with tears. She gently stroked his matted fur, her touch light and reassuring. Buster leaned into it, a profound sigh escaping his weary chest, a sigh that carried the weight of years of loneliness, of waiting, of guarding. He closed his eyes, finally allowing himself to truly feel the warmth of a human touch after what felt like an eternity. He had waited, he had endured, he had kept his promise. The house without a voice was silent no longer, filled now with the soft murmurs of Eleanor's comforting words and the gentle thumping of Buster's old tale. Eleanor spent the next few hours with him, offering him fresh water and a small portion of the food she had in her bag. She wrapped him in a warm blanket and sat with him, speaking to him in gentle tones, a testament to her profound empathy. She knew with an absolute certainty that she couldn't leave him. Buster's long vigil had come to an end. Eleanor, after making arrangements for the house with the local authorities, took Buster to her own home. It was a new house, filled with new sounds and new smells, but it was also filled with something wonderfully familiar: love. Buster, old and weary, finally found peace. He spent his remaining days in comfort, cherished and cared for, his golden heart finally at rest. He would often lie by the window, his gaze still watchful, but now it was a gaze of contentment, not longing. He had kept his vigil. He had waited. And in the end, love had found him again. The house without a voice remained, a silent monument to a vanished past. But Buster, its loyal guardian, had finally found his voice again, in the gentle touch and loving heart of a new friend. His story, a testament to unwavering loyalty, would echo on, a quiet legend in the annals of forgotten homes.